guys, I don't know if this interests you or not, but it's part of your history because it's part of OPA's history and it's part of my history. Um, when I went to work for OPA in 1980, somewhere between there and 83, TxDOT, under federal requirements, began implementing what's called MBE and WBE and DBE. Minority Business Enterprise, Women's Business Enterprise, and Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And it required us to subcontract between 5 and 10% of our contracts to one of those three. It started off minority, and then it changed to disadvantaged, and then the women got pissed off and wanted to be included, so they included women. So a guy that opened, I knew, he wasn't really a friend, he was a competitor, but he was still one of the truck drivers in the company. I mean, he was that, a blue-collar guy that just worked his ass off at crushing. He got his mother to own his company. And TxDOT tried to call it a sham, and she went down there and chewed their asses out in Austin and said, I'm there every day, and But TxDOT tried to make that thing work right. But a lot of people I know, and one or two of them were in a Bible study I was in, and I went and talked to them privately. Two of them they think that having your own business is just rolling it to the bank in a wheelbarrow and getting somebody else to do the work. And that, I guess, that does happen in some cases when you can work some kind of deal. But the generations that came before you, like my great-grandfather and grandfather, they were raised on a farm, and that farm work was so dang tough that highway construction was easy compared to that farm work. And that's where our good superintendents came from, who didn't mind traveling. Driving that pickup a long way to a job was easy compared to working for their daddy. You know what I mean? Stand by while I check the market. Hang on. And I heard sermons preached at certain churches and stuff, or guest speakers more, that if you didn't have quotas for disadvantaged people, the playing field would never level out. So that was the basis of that. You got to have some kind of quota to give them a leg up. But what happened was it created a skewed mentality, as you might anticipate it would, of entitlement. And now we're finally, decades later, seeing the backlash with people going, wait a minute, you shouldn't get an advantage just because your skin color. That's discrimination based on race. We're finally kind of seeing that. And we're also seeing people, and this really got bad with Obama, think that because of their skin color and their disadvantaged ancestry, they're entitled to steal and loot and get a pass. And Obama implied that. He made that a lot worse. I'm going to put a link to two videos. One of them is to them talking about this, and it makes a lot of sense. And I know y'all are busy, it may not interest you. One of them talks about this disadvantaged business enterprise thing, and the other one talks about a sheriff in Florida. There was a championship football game being played, and the people from out of town team, they went to one of the local stores and just started stealing crap. They arrested them. And the coach went up there and said, man, they got to play in this game more. You need to let them. No, we don't. You don't get to come down here and steal. You're going to miss your game. Sorry. You with me? So, justice, mercy, and faith. Mercy and compassion, yeah, but not to give a pass to crap like that. In fact, there was no repentance. They felt entitled to it. Entitlement leads to no repentance. I'll put both links. Go get them. One thing that we did, we got a trucker out of El Paso that we liked using. His name was Edmundo Valencia. And we did have a lot of trucking on our jobs, like hot mix and stuff. You had to get that stuff at the hot mix plant and carry it out to the road in the truck. And so we got a lot of our DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise stuff, done by guys who were hardworking guys that kind of fit our system. From time to time, we had to get them for something else like guardrail, and it was a mess. They didn't know what they were doing. They expected all they had to do was get the contract and go to the bank. It frustrated my superintendents who weren't used to that. They'd call me and say, "Can you come to the job and put some heat on these guys' ass and stuff?" That kind of thing. Marshall will understand this. Workers' compensation, I always had a beef with ambulance chasers, and this is where it comes from. Workers' compensation insurance got so bad, so fraudulent, and the ambulance chasers were encouraging it. I mean, they didn't care what your story was. They'd represent you, even if you were lying. It got so bad that none of the major insurance companies would write work comp insurance in Texas, and we had to start our own insurance company so we could insure ourselves at the jobs. Now, you take the huge guys like Williams Brothers or Morrison Knudsen, or you may not even know these, but huge guys, they were so big, across the United States that their insurers would work with them. But the small and middle-sized like us, we were screwed. And we did. We put a lot of money together and started our own insurance company. I learned a lot being on that board, and I've got some good stories there. And I remember thinking what a nice guy Jeff Paradowski seemed like, but I knew he was an ambulance chaser in College Station, and I was struggling with, what do I do with this guy? I can't stand this guy because he's an ambulance chaser, but he's not. And back then, the same thing was probably about the tax collectors. You don't like them because they're a tax collector, and tough stuff. Go get them.